Hi, I'm Matt Mike with Sharp Pointy Things. Today we're going to look at some knife tangs. The tang is the part behind the blade that the grip is attached to. There's a lot of misconceptions, misterminology, and misunderstandings. It's actually relatively straightforward. So let's bring the camera in close and we'll look at these. One of the very common questions is this knife full tang? This isn't actually a question you need to ask. If you can see a continuation of the blade and the tang through the grip, then that is a full tang knife. If you can't see that, it isn't. Full tang is the strongest, although many full tang knives will have lightening holes or tapers or slots inside to reduce the weight. So just because it looks like it's full tang doesn't mean it is a solid slab of metal, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. Here is an M7 bayonet. These have been issued since Vietnam. They've got replaced within the last few years, but there's still plenty of them in civilian hands and probably in some old armories. The National Guard hangs on to stuff forever. You'll notice this tang, this is an encapsulated tang. It is still fairly substantial, but the handle wraps around it. The same thing is true of the K-bar, the new Marine bayonet, and the aircrew survival knife. There's a video out there of someone taking one of these and snapping it with his hands and impugning it. We're going to step outside and see if we can duplicate those results. So let's check the strength on this tang. I'm able to pry chunks out of a tree. That is not causing the blade to break. Now, if we very deliberately vise it and lean on it, and I'm putting almost 200 pounds on it at this point, it's not bending. It deflected a little and came back true. Let's do another test. So I'm not sure how this gentleman figures he can just pick it up in his hands and break it, because... All right. So the knife did deflect slightly, but came back true. You can also see where it left a divot in the wood. I was putting enough pressure on it to deform the wood. The knife did not break. And notes that this is a knife that has been used for multiple tests, cutting aluminum, prying, snapping. It's fine. So clearly this is stronger than people give it credit for. I'm not sure if that was a defective knife the gentleman had, if someone had manipulated it in some way, but we gave it more abuse than you should give a knife, and it held up just fine. As far as deliberately putting it in a vise and breaking it, no, it won't do that. At the same time, a pry bar doesn't split firewood, so you use the right tool for the right job. Now, this is a tapered tang on a piece I've been working on. Lots of Viking and Northern European knives used this type of tang. So do Japanese swords in a longer format. The blade is tapered, presses down into the grip, and then maybe just pressure fitted, wedged, or actually have a pin through it. It's obviously far less substantial, but for hundreds of years people thought this was more than sufficient for a knife that they were using for daily use, cutting and such. Now here is where we get to a rat tail tang. This is a cheap knife from Pakistan. There are some decent knives from Pakistan. In fact, the full tang handle one I showed is one of them. This one is made to be as cheap as possible. They ground a blade, they spot welded a piece of all thread onto the base of the blade. It's got some epoxy or resin of some kind. They stuck it together, and yes, something like this you can easily break with your hands. This is made to be a costume piece. This is not made for actual use. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with an encapsulated tang. So these have held up in military use for decades. Certainly more is better, but look how thick and wide this is. This is a solid bar of steel all the way through the handle. This is a solid bar of steel all the way through the handle and pinned in place. Both of those. The K-bar is a solid bar of steel through the handle and then has a pin holding it in place. All of these are more than sufficiently durable for any normal use. If you need to abuse your knife more than that in a life and death situation, then you do. but a knife is not a pry bar under any normal circumstances. And even if you do, it will hold up for a while. So you know the drill below, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, so we can do more of these videos. The website is Sharp Pointy Things. It's largely custom stuff and vintage stuff. It varies from time to time, but these videos are meant to be informative. Thank you very much.